All right, welcome back. Let's bring in our panel now on this very consequential week in politics. With us here in studio, we have former state party chair for the Indiana Democrats, Robin Winston, and for the Republicans, former state rep Mike Murphy, along with the professors, Dr. Martin Sweet from Purdue University and Dr. Laura Wilson from the University of Indianapolis. Laura, I'll start with you here. It feels like we've seen it all, and yet this past week was a week with so many dramatic events in this race for president that each had the ability to really reset this race, and yet we still don't know where it's going from here.
No, we don't. And I think the benefit maybe to minimizing the impact of these events is that we're several months away from the actual election. But when you talk about historic moments, you talk about an attempted assassination, you talk about Biden and a positive COVID test, there's just so many things in addition to the RNC, and we'll be coming up to the DNC very soon, that are going to constantly make that public opinion meter move. So I think it's really hard when you look at any of these polls. They show it being close. They show Trump maybe being ahead, even in some of those swing states. It's hard to put too much into that. And then, of course, there's the big question of whether or not Biden even stays in the race.
A lot of pressure still that he faces from within his party as we wait to see who the Democrats will officially nominate at their convention here a few weeks from now. We know the Republican ticket now, Martin, and usually that Veep selection is a pretty big development, a pretty big headline, right? There were so many other big developments this past week. What do you make of J.D. Vance's selection, the impact it'll have on this race as we wait to see who the Democrats will indeed nominate officially at their convention?
Right. Well, most voters vote at the top of the ticket. And so the first thing that all vice president nominations have to consider is do no harm. And I think to that extent, that certainly passes this test. It's not really a pick that's going to expand the Republican base in any real way. Rubio was an option there. Tim Scott was an option that way. That didn't go. But this is someone with whom Donald Trump feels comfortable. He thinks that he can cement the Trump legacy. And he made clear that during the convention that Vance will be on the national stage for a long time to come.
Mike, your thoughts here on the RNC? There was this notion that there would be a different tone, a tone of unity. We saw that at times. But also that unity there at the convention comes without some Republicans who weren't there, right, and who aren't supporting Donald Trump, whether that's his former cabinet members or Republicans like Mike Pence and Todd Young here in Indiana. Jim Banks, by the way, indirectly calling them out at the RNC for not supporting Trump. What do you make of all that, and what did you make of the former president's speech with perhaps two different tones throughout that very long address?
Well, I think the first 5 minutes or so were actually historic. I mean, they belong on videotape at the Smithsonian because it's a president who there was an assassination attempt against him, and he describes in the first person what he was feeling and thinking when he was going through that. You didn't get that with, a lot of other people because they didn't make it through, frankly. But I think once you get beyond the first 5 minutes, it turned into a lot of rambling and grievances and things like that, and I was disappointed that he didn't take that opportunity. He had the unity lines in the first 5 minutes, and then once you get past that, what happened to the tone? What happened to the civility? And I think ultimately, though, it changed nothing. The Democrats are still going to vote for Trump, or for Biden. The Republicans are still going to vote for Trump. And it's still going to be a close election.
Robin, what's your view on all this from across the aisle at a time where the president's team, President Biden's team, has insisted he's staying in the race, and yet all kinds of reporting that a different decision could potentially be imminent?
I don't want to talk about Joe Biden right now. You'll cover that enough. Let's talk about Donald Trump, who stood up there and said, let's fire the head of the UAW. So folks living in Anderson, Newcastle, if you worked at Rolls-Royce, if you're in Local 993 at Allison, he said you should fire your leader. I mean, that's what he said. He couldn't hold it back long enough. We're going to all of a sudden, other than the Trail of Tears, have the largest deportation of American citizens and people affected by American citizens in our history. Couldn't hold that back. So, Joe Biden's going to continue to make his decision. I believe he's going to stay in the race at this point, and I believe we're going to have an outstanding convention.
Laura, obviously that's where the attention turns next, is what happens with that decision. Really not much of a historical comparison that can be made on this, since a change at the top of the ticket this late in the race is really pretty unprecedented.
It would be. I mean, I think the closest thing you can consider is LBJ, and even then it wasn't this close to convention. Right? Yeah. Exactly. And there wasn't the public outcry. I think that's the real pressure on Biden right now. It's one thing if the Republicans don't like him, of course they don't, but when there are Democrats publicly coming out, you have Nancy Pelosi having this meeting, right, and then saying, well, we talked to him, we said, that feels like a lot of pressure there, and I can't think of any other comparison, so it really is unprecedented.
Martin, how would a change at the top of the ticket impact this race? It seems like different polls suggest very different answers to that question.
Right. Well, on the race itself, people tend to be tribal. And so while certainly Trump is unique and certainly Biden has his own characteristics, for the most part, most voters are going to vote either D or R and not particularly care about the nuances. And so should Biden be replaced by Kamala Harris, Josh Shapiro, Gavin Newsom, I don't actually think the numbers change that dramatically. But when you have a very tight election, those marginal changes could make all the difference in the world.
All right, meantime, as we talk about the race for president this week, we're also talking about some of the races here in Indiana, the race for governor with the mid-year fundraising numbers now in. Here's how that race looks in terms of cash on hand. Mike Braun's campaign has $1.7 million and actually spent less on the primary than two of his Republican opponents did. Jennifer McCormick about $1 million behind Braun, $700,000 on hand, while Libertarian Donald Rainwater has $77,000. What do you make of those numbers, Mike, and what they say about these candidates and their viability this year?
Well, it just documents the obvious. McCormick does not have a chance. Braun's going to be a fundraising machine over the next few months, especially once we get past this Biden-Trump controversy. The Republican convention was very successful. It's going to build for Braun, and McCormick, nice a lady she may be, is going to be left in the dust.
Robin, your response to that? You get the last word here.
I disagree with that 100%. I was at our convention, and I can tell you the enthusiasm for Jennifer McCormick is better than any I've seen, other than when Frank O'Bannon ran and he won. You kind of led into this by pointing out that two of the Republicans spent more money than Mike Braun did, and lost. So money isn't always the main criteria. Grassroots organization and a good old thing called get out the vote still do matter.
You chaired that convention, in fact, last weekend there downtown for the state Democrats. All right, panel's going to be back in just a few minutes. Coming up next, though, we're going to hear from an Indiana Republican who was there in Pennsylvania when a gunman opened fire shooting toward former President Donald Trump. Stick around. We'll be back right after this.